Hello, fam. We're going to do things a little bit differently today because Petter is actually going to interview me. Petter, it was actually your idea, so you want to share with the fam what we're doing and why you're interviewing me today.
Yeah, so I read your article,
Thank you.
which was really good. And I'm not just saying that because you're a friend, but because I
Because
think
you
it
have
was
to.
yeah, no, because this podcast is paid by. Uh, I'm saying this because I did really find it insightful,
Great.
especially about the comment of, like grief coming from inauthenticity.
Yeah.
And I like how you built it up, you went to the core, and then you provide some solutions. So
Yeah.
I thought it was a great idea to actually ask you more details
Let's go.
than what's just written in the text. So I'm just going to
Great.
jump deep dive straight
Let's
into
do
the
it.
into the deep end of the pool. We're going to go over the first question, which is ambitious people will naturally devote their energy to achieve some form of success. We
Mhm.
all know that. We've all seen that. But then it's not one of game, which means like the more you experience success, the more you're like, okay, I need to do the next step, the next step, the next
Mhm.
step. But it does leave you feeling a little bit empty once you start going to the next goal. So
Yeah.
you are proposing that there is a better way.
There's a better
Okay.
way.
So are you willing to share your views on that?
Never.
Okay.
Yeah, so human nature, you're either growing or dying. I really do believe that. So it's natural, especially if you're an ambitious person, you always want more. My first question is, but are you chasing the right things? Because when you're not chasing the right things, more and more and more of it just makes you more and more empty and feeling off. So my first question is, whatever you're striving for, is it truly aligned with who you are and your purpose, right? That's one. Secondly, is if you truly are striving for your purpose and what you're meant to do and what you're supposed to serve, my question now is instead of waiting to feel good about achieving the thing, like when you climb the mountaintop, what if you enjoyed the journey there? So, what do I mean by that? What if you not slow down per se, but just like looked around when you were moving and like you're mindful of who's in your journey, like the people and the relationships that you build or the obstacles that you will naturally face. It's like being proud of yourself or literally celebrating yourself when you overcome every little hurdle. I think the biggest thing when it comes to striving and enjoying the mountaintop is when you during the process when you're really enjoying the whole journey, it won't feel like you're giving up so much once you get there because you're actually like not killing yourself to get there. So I would say those are the two things I would first ask the audience to consider. The other thing I would say is too much of anything is toxic, like too much water, having completely clean detox diet is also not healthy. So while we're chasing, is there the way that we can integrate what makes a meaningful a life, which is genuine connection and purpose?
So conclusion, too much of happiness is bad.
Yeah, it can because then you get numb. It's true though. Good
Yeah, you
point.
may you may not actually appreciate the things that are available to you every day.
Exactly. Yeah. There's a but one thing I would say is because it's fresh in my mind, evil needs to exist in order for there to be good. Because if everything's good, you don't know what good is. So there's a purpose for both sides. Yeah, a little dark, but I think there's always a purpose for the contrast because then you wouldn't exist if there was no contrast. Yeah.
Okay, so the next question is,
Mhm.
why do you think external validation, or like when we think about what society will approve,
Yeah.
versus internal validation, which is what I think is good and right,
Yeah.
why do you think external validation is so much more prioritized
Yeah.
in our everyday lives, and especially in terms of like how we view like strategically our careers, what
Yeah.
we do?
Yeah. First is that's what we've been taught. So if you think about like a school system, you think about when you have a job, you're always taught to ask for, does my boss like me? Do my friends like me? Do like my parents approve of me? When was a time in a system that you were taught to ask yourself internally, what do you want? What makes you happy? You'd actually have to consciously be aware that you're feeling off and then do the work and then realize, wait, actually the inner compass is actually more me. So I think number one, it's training that we've been taught to do this. Secondly, is it takes a lot of courage to take the less traveled road, which is the road where not everyone's going to, like seeking validation, right? So again, it also takes self-awareness to be like, I need to check in on myself. I'm feeling off and doing the work. So I think doing like choosing the other path takes courage. It is worth it, but like that initial, like setting the track of a new path is harder. Third is we're so focused on what we can measure. So likes, time, money, all these things are following. We're so obsessed with measuring that we forget things that we can't really measure, like your health or your emotions or your feelings until you get like in a really dark place, right? So I think we over prioritize what we can measure. We're obsessed with it. And then lastly is because we're social creatures, we're naturally going to care about like social, like where do we stand in social system in terms of safety, like where do we stand, right? But I think we take it a little too far. Like you don't need 100K followers to be safe. You don't need when you walk into a bar to every guy to desire you to feel like as a woman you're enough, right? I just feel like if you think of Maslow's hierarchy of needs, as you ascend, like you were saying, as a human, as you ascend, you want to like achieve more, do more things, unlock another level of consciousness. Getting more of a lower stage within Maslow's hierarchy, it doesn't actually make you happier or better. It's the ascension. So it's not about getting more of something. It's about how do you get more of different things and ascending.
So I would like to unpack a couple of things there
Go.
because we had like 1, 2, 3. Like one, do we ask ourselves what do we want?
Yes.
And like going into any corner shop in Eastern Europe, they're gonna ask you, what do you want when you walk
Oh,
in? So you will get asked,
okay.
but not in that context. It's
Okay.
what do you want, pay and get out. But yeah, I agree with you. We don't really ask ourselves like so often, like what do we actually
Yeah.
want? Measurement part. I think it's just, especially anybody who's analytical is going to go by like, oh, measure what matters,
Yeah.
like, and
Love
it's
you.
and it's hard to go to things that are so subjective, like well-being,
Yeah.
because
Yeah.
like, like you can only mark your own self
Yeah.
and say like, oh, I'm feeling like 7 out of 10, which is again measuring,
Yeah,
like,
exactly. Yeah.
uh,
That's
but
true.
yeah, that's the hard part. And then yeah, the third point that you had,
More.
yeah, you just want more of the same
Same.
thing
Yeah.
is, yeah, it's hard to think of it. Like where my mind went to is like, you want more money, for
Yeah.
example, but like, does more money make you happier?
Yeah. And well,
Questionable.
yeah.
Like, not saying like it's not important, but like,
Yeah.
does it actually make you happier? Like,
Yeah.
the utility function goes lower. We know that. It's like it's measured.
Yeah.
Yeah.
100%.
Cool. So next question.
Yeah.
And I think we're getting like to the
Arrgh.
core meat.
Hit me,
So
baby.
authenticity, and like you're focusing your article on authenticity,
Mm.
is generally celebrated. But then if it's so celebrated, if it's so,
Mm.
like positive, like why is not everyone authentic? And
Yeah.
there is this kind of counterweight which says like, no, you're going to get rewarded if you are inauthentic, if you're nice to everyone, even though you don't want to be, if you're, like
Mm.
tolerating a bunch of things and like, so why do you think we are sacrificing
Yeah.
the authenticity for fitting in? Why do we even make that trade-off? Why are we not like just more authentic by default?
Yeah. I actually don't agree that there's always a profit or benefit to being inauthentic, but it's because people think that. They're like, okay, I've seen someone do this and it works for them. So let me just carbon copy what, say you're a trainer, right? And you want to grow your social media platform. You see someone blow up in a certain way and you're like, okay, well, I know that works. I'm going to copy it, even if it's inauthentic to me, because there's this belief that if I'm authentic, I can't grow it the way, like there's only way to do it. So I want to first dispel that. It's not true, right? If you look at, for anyone who's tried to go viral or studied it, anyone knows there's no exact science to it. It's science plus art. I say it's science plus heart. It's people, things go viral when people can feel you. Sometimes it's like fear mongering, sometimes it's causing inspiration, but it's like the ones that really make it are the ones that have that emotion that you evoke, and it only comes out when you're being authentic. So I think that's the first thing I would dispel. Like it's not always a benefit to being inauthentic if people think that. But I think the other hit to your point about like why I think people make that trade-off, um, people don't realize that there's a hidden cost to being inauthentic. Like people think like, well, okay, well, this works, so I'm gonna choose this path, even though it's not me. But then it's like they don't realize the grief that comes with not being yourself and you're slowly dying, right? It's again, it's a feeling. You're not measuring it. You only understand it when you go really far down there, like, holy crap, I like forgot who I was. And I think I only seen that theme or like how I've discovered it. It's like when I'm coaching people or when I'm speaking to people, like when people open up, the common thing I see is like the pain in their eyes. It doesn't matter what kind of person you are, what you do. It's like it's the same thing over and over again that I'm like, that is so universal. It's really having those one-on-one conversations or like those group conversations that are intimate that I'm like, that's how I recognize there was grief.
And I think that's a great point because once you start like steering away, you don't feel it as strongly. But like once it accumulates
Yes.
enough and enough time has passed, and then you ask yourself, like looking back,
Yeah.
how much did this cost me?
Yes.
Then you're like, oh wow, this was such a high price to pay.
100%.
And I don't think it's straightforward. I don't think it's obvious. It's like an insight that,
Yeah.
like you have to come up to. Um, so basically you're saying you got to that insight by talking to other people, seeing it, but like did you see the same insight in your own self?
100%. I feel like there are examples in which I was asked to be inauthentic and it felt so icky that I couldn't do it. I think I've always grown up, like I just couldn't, even if I'd rather be the black sheep than not be me. I did feel like the pain of people like judging you and whatever, or like not getting like the recognition that you want because you're not doing what other people want you to do. But yeah, it's like the moments that I've deviated or been asked to deviate, and it was like this, like, what's it called? Like repulsive feeling that I couldn't do it. Yeah.
Makes sense. So next question. You're talking about deviating from yourself, deviating from your authentic self
Yeah.
as a path to emptiness.
Hmm.
But now what we just said was, like, well, it's not easy to identify that you're doing that.
Yeah.
So how do you think would someone identify it for themselves? Like,
Yeah.
let's say right now they're in this journey where they're doing like little bit and little bit away from what they think should
Hmm.
be their core person.
Hmm.
How do they identify that?
So that's a really great question. We are such human doings now. We're not human beings, or I would say human feelings, especially when it comes to men. And I don't fault men for this. You just growing up in a Western society, men were told like not to have feelings, right? In our generation, right? Like
I
suck it
have
up.
no feelings about
Yeah.
this whatsoever.
Or like don't cry, right? It's only recently that the way we parent is a little bit different. So I don't fault men for this, but you've never taught how to feel and accept it. So I think first is like just take a beat and don't logic yourself out of things and just how are you feeling? Just like do a check-in. How are you feeling? And when you unnumb yourself from substances, from work, from sex, from relationships, you'll feel it. You'll feel that emptiness, right? So I would say number one is get yourself in a clear, I would say get your body, your vessel, and your mind in an empty space and check in like, how are you feeling? And then there's specific questions that I would ask yourself to get there. And I always remind people, think about like how you should feel when you feel aligned in yourself. Think about when you were a child, like a toddler, a little baby. When you liked something or someone, you just ran up to it and you would eat and you would grab it, right? You don't like stop yourself and be like, oh, am I going to bother this person? And when someone gave you icky vibes or you didn't like the taste of something, you just spit it out. Like you had no sense of like, oh, I should be polite and just deal with it.
Ideally, not directly on the street or other
Right.
people, but like,
Well,
yeah,
but you kids do that. I've
yeah.
done it, But we're so blunt and honest, and like that's our true nature. Like following what gives us joy, what gives us like the feeling aligned or that high. So there's a few questions I would actually have people ask themselves to say, like, okay, am I misaligned or am I off my path? So I would say go in a quiet place, probably at home, somewhere that's more like calm and not like clutter everywhere because you want to feel more like at peace. And I would say close your eyes and breathe in for 4 seconds, out for 6. So your exhales should be longer than your inhales because that's how you get into like a more calm state. Do the 4 in, 6 out, maybe 3 or 4 times until you feel like you're centered. And here are the questions I want you to ask. There's 10 of them. So first is, am I living my dream life? If not, what's holding me back? That's a really important one because your dream life is your compass. Second is, am I living on purpose? So whatever purpose feels like to you. Third is, am I embodying love every day? Like, am I coming from love? Am I speaking from love? Are my actions from love? Even when someone hurts you, there's a reactive way so there's a response that's still loving, right? Well, pound town, a different way. Um, 4 is, am I the best or my favorite version of myself? That's a good check-in. 5, this might trigger some people, but it's good to know. Do I hate anything about myself or my life? Because if you don't have that self-love for yourself, you can't create a loving life for yourself. 6 is, what's not working right now? 7, what am I ignoring or dismissing that I know I need to look at? 8 is, do I hate anything about myself? Am I angry with myself? A lot of times the anger can also facilitate and cause you to act in ways that are not aligned with your true path. 9, am I sad about anything? Have you not processed any grief? And lastly is, when I'm on my deathbed, what would I regret given my path now? That one usually hits home.
I think like the 10 questions, everybody is going to find something there that
Yeah,
is not like ideal. At
definitely
least
not.
not ideal.
Yeah,
Like we
yeah,
want to be
yeah, yeah.
honest with ourselves, right?
Yeah.
So, okay, you've identified it.
Hmm.
You now think like, well, not like you're misaligned in like
Yeah,
everything, but like you may be misaligned in
certain
some
areas.
aspects.
Hmm.
So, which brings us to the last question. It's kind of like a great segue. You know, there are going to be people who have read your article,
Hmm.
who see this podcast, and they say to themselves like, yes, I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, what you said resonates.
Hmm.
And then they switch it off, like, and then they go on with their lives as if nothing happened.
Right.
So like, what would be your kind of idea that put this information into practice
Right.
rather than just ignore it?
So first is, if you're one of those people and I see you, you just wasted my love of labor. No, I'm kidding. Um, Real talk though, I would say when you're performing or you are being someone that you're not, you can be so good at acting that you lose yourself. And if you think about a lot of actors and actresses, we've heard some scary stories when people truly lose their sense of self and unfortunately have done things that harm themselves or others because they were so deeply in a role, right? So I would say caution that. Secondly, the pain of losing who you truly are and that grief is way worse than losing the title, the accolades, the right, quote unquote, right connections. I always really believe not everything you lose is truly a bad thing or a loss. It really isn't. Because if it requires you to not be yourself to maintain that relationship or that job or that whatever, is that path really for you? Right. So I would say those things. And the last exercise I would do, similar to the questions I had you guys think about, I call this future tripping. I always do this. I'm always like, okay, I think far ahead in 5, 10 years, right? What would my life look like if I did certain things? So I want to give you guys 3 future tripping exercises. One is similar to what I just described earlier. When I'm on my deathbed, what would I regret given where I'm at now, right? Number 2 is, if I keep going down this path and the pain and grief and whatever misalignment I feel gets compounded every year, how am I going to feel? How bad will be the pain in 5 years, 10 years, 20 years? And then what else will I lose? Will it be my health? Will it be my sanity? Will it be my relationships, right? Um, and then lastly, this is so important. I always encourage everyone to do this. I would say check in at least once a month because sometimes we move around. I want you to imagine your dream life, like close your eyes and imagine it, like do the breathing exercise I suggested. And I want you to really think about, in this dream life, what are you doing? Where are you? Who are you with? And most importantly, how you're feeling. because that's your compass. Because your dream life, and we've done this exercise at my events before, is so different from mine and everyone else's. And that's not, it just shows you like we're so uniquely driven on our own compass. The compass is here. Trust this, not all the other guidance externally.
I can vouch for that. Like, look,
Okay.
even for myself and like how I look at my career,
Yeah.
just a simple exercise that was doing a lot recently was like,
Yeah.
next 10 years going
Mm.
forward down this path,
Mhm.
am I happier? Am I more successful? And it goes back to this point of like, just staying in the certain path doesn't
Yeah.
necessarily make you more successful. But like, if I know that I'm not happier, then I'm like, okay, well, let me choose the other path where
Yes.
I'm definitely going to be happier. I'll probably be more successful, but even if
Yeah.
I'm not, I'll still be happier. It's a
Yeah.
great deal.
Yeah. I'm always like, if you're ready near rock bottom, or I mean, you already
Well, I
don't
never
like,
said I was near rock bottom,
right? Sorry.
but
Well,
so,
that's true. But like, if you're ready not in a like not a best state or a good state, wouldn't doing anything else be a better idea? Like, clearly, this track is not working, right? It's like getting in a relationship with a person who says, like, he never ever wants to get married, and you know you want to get married. Why the hell are you still in that relationship, right? So, yeah, I would say do yourself a favor and course correct sooner than
yeah.
later.
And I think it's not even when something is going, it doesn't have to go bad. It can be just okay.
That's true.
Are
Yeah, a
you
little
okay with okay in
okay.
life? Like,
Yeah.
yeah, how's it been? It's been okay. Like I haven't seen you in
Okay.
5 years. How have you been doing?
Okay.
It's okay.
It's like, how's your wife? Okay.
Not terrible.
Yeah.
Like,
Alive.
yeah, that is
Breathing.
not inspirational.
That's not life.
Yeah,
That's
it
not being
should be
alive.
like, it's been amazing, like let's sit down and talk about like
Yeah,
everything that
everything.
happened. Yeah.
I'm
So
with you.
that's the final point that I
Okay.
had. It's been short and sweet,
Short and
like deep
sweet.
deep dive, like
Just like short
yeah.
and sweet.
So basically, yeah, I would recommend to everyone to read the article. I think it's
Thank you.
very insightful. And then maybe like read the article, listen to the podcast, and then read the article again.
Yeah, that's true. Because I think
Yeah.
you'll pick up different nuggets on
Yeah.
it. But yeah, I think the whole point of that article was like, I want people to wake up and just be mindful of things that you're not measuring and be mindful of the pain that you're carrying, but you're not addressing because it's not going to go away. So thank you, Petter.
Well, thank you
This
for
is fun.
for allowing me to be the moderator.
Oh, it was great. You crushed it.
Thank you.
Thank
Awesome.
you, guys.